Smagpies, and welcome to the SMAGcast number 14, Group Solitaire Edition. So, this week, I have had a lot of stuff I could talk about, like the break-in here at my house, which I've rehashed so much, I'm not talking about it. Helped Mike move this weekend. Let's talk about the movie I saw. This weekend saw the release of what may well be this generation's fifth element, Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim is another one of those movies that actually feels like a comic book or a cartoon, specifically Japanese animation or anime. The science and physics are terrible. There's lots of things about, it's immune to EMPs because it's analog. I'm like, yeah, because, all those circuits. Ugh. But if you set all that aside and think of it as like a live-action anime, it kind of works. Now, I'm going to try not to talk about any real big spoilers, but be warned, there may be a few. So, going into the movie, I was expecting spectacle and flash with sort of a tacked-on human interest angle, and I wouldn't care about the characters at all. Now, spectacle, we got giant robots fighting giant monsters, and it was fantastic for that. What I also got was an interesting group of characters that I actually sort of wanted to pay attention to. I wanted to see where they went. Those characters were sort of painted in broad strokes, but when you have that much happening in a movie, you don't really have time to paint in the little details. A lot of the character arcs you could kind of see coming from a mile and a half off. Marshall's backstory and what was going to happen to him, you knew what was going to happen from the get-go. It was established very early and you could see what was going to happen. The Australian father and son, it was typical of that sort of dynamic. And I suppose if I had a big problem with the movie, it was the sheer level of predictability because the characters were such stereotype. They were very, okay, here's the scientist that's, wanting to do something stupid. Here's the hero. Here's the female lead. Here's the commanding officer. Here's all these other ancillary characters around them. I kind of wish the father-son dynamic had been written for the main character of the film, but, I'm not the screenwriter or the director. There you go. My favorite characters in the entire film, though, were the two scientists. I really enjoyed their bickering, their character, their relationship, and their relationship with other people. And yeah, I really was glad they were there, but I'm also glad they weren't in there any more than they were, because you could tell they were going to get on your nerves eventually. I wouldn't want to see a whole movie with these two. It would have been like two dueling Jar Jar Binks. So, good call to Mr. Del Toro for having them in as much as he did and not more. Like I said before, though, the fights were incredibly worth it. There just aren't enough giant robot movies out there anymore. I personally am glad we've got something new in the genre from America that isn't Robot Jox. Yes, I remember Robot Jox. Go back and watch it. I promise. Just go watch that, then watch Pacific Rim. If you have any gripes, you're probably going to feel better about Pacific Rim afterwards. I will say this. It makes me want a new Robotech movie. I would like to see a live-action Robotech done with, paying homage to the original series, or Macross, whatever. I'm not going to get into that whole Macross Robotech argument. Carl Macek did what he did because he was paid to, and he did the best he could, and quite frankly, he introduced an entire generation to Japanese animation, so lay off him. I've digressed. The underwater fight at the end of the movie, that's the only thing I'm going to say, is the fight at the end is underwater, and it was a bit of a letdown, to be 100% honest. I was hoping for more. I was looking for something where they would pull out some kind of a giant mega weapon powered by, like, Tex-Mexium or something. And they didn't. It was what it was. Go see the movie, and you'll understand what I mean. But, despite all these complaints that I have about the film, It was entertaining. It wasn't a terrible movie. It was fun to watch. We got our money's worth out of the film. The only thing I can really add to that is that my favorite monster in the film was in a flashback, and it was a giant crab monster. And as it comes on screen, it's got its lobster claws going there. Austin leans over and says, "Well, that's for the seafood lover in you," which is, if you're a Mystery Science Theater fan, you know what I'm talking about already. Joel gave Servo and Crow these robot arms in an episode. Servo had like a Swiss Army knife and a flamethrower. Crow got a lobster claw and a bent coat hanger. So, yeah. Anyway, it brought up a lot of memories of watching Godzilla and watching like Evangelion or Eureka 7 or one of those shows like that. So it was an enjoyable film if you like anime. Don't go in saying, "Oh, he ripped this off." What he did was he paid homage to things that he loves. And it was something he didn't have to buy the rights to. So go in, enjoy the ride. Don't expect something deep or amazing. It's pretty cool, though. So check it out when you get the chance. Now, I did compare it to The Fifth Element, in that The Fifth Element didn't do fantastically at the theater, but it's become a cult hit and people love it. And I can honestly see that happening with this movie. Eventually, people are going to be buying this on DVD and Blu-ray and watching it and talking about the subtle intricacies of the interpersonal relationships, and it's a metaphor for this and that and the other. And I really think that's going to happen with Pacific Rim. I don't think that's going to happen in the next few weeks to save it at the box office. I do think Del Toro's comments about in the sequel what he wants to do, that's a little premature. I don't think there's going to be a sequel to this. I don't think anyone's going to give him money to do this. I honestly don't know if they're going to give him money to do any other movies after this. I love his genre stuff. I love when he steps outside of like weird spooky horror stuff. I love Hellboy. Let's face fact. I love the first Hellboy movie. The second one was okay. I don't really care if they get that third one done, which is probably not going to happen. But I'm not like a huge Del Toro fan. But I liked Pacific Rim. I liked it enough that I'll eventually get it on Blu-ray. And, I'll probably sit someone down and make them watch it who didn't see it. And they can appreciate it. And the part where it's in the trailers and the commercials. The part where Gypsy Danger comes up with a boat like a baseball bat and just starts clobbering this monster. Man, you just have to see it in the theater. That's an amazing scene. But yeah, I was a little surprised by the fact that I did care about the characters. I was really sort of thinking I'd go into the movie and it would be giant monsters and some hokum for the characters. And while the characters, as I said, are predictable, I ended up getting invested in them and wanting, certain things to happen. I was like, come on, come on, but win. So that's all I've got for this week, because if I keep going, I'm just gonna throw spoilers out there. So I'm gonna hand this over to Warren, and I will see you guys at the other end.
I think one of the shittiest lies or half-truths we've ever been told as modern people, I don't know, as in this culture, is the idea that some people are just born knowing how to do shit. Like, there seems to be a genuine desire by people to believe that some people are born just knowing how to play guitar or knowing how to paint or sculpt or draw. And I don't know, it seems pervasive. It's very common for people to respond to some work of art with the phrase, "I wish I could draw," or "I wish I could paint like that." And if you happen to be good at something, almost invariably, one of the first thoughts that'll go through your mind is practice. That's all you gotta do. I mean, will it give you the inspiration to do great things? Not necessarily, but that doesn't mean you can't access that kind of inspiration. It just means being good at something doesn't automatically make you inspired. But yeah, basically the answer to I wish I could is practice. Every time, that's the answer to that desire. I wish I could paint. I wish I could draw. I wish I could play guitar. I wish I could sculpt. Practice. Practice is the only solution to that. I wish I could draw more anatomically correct people. I wish I could play a wider range of this or that. Well, the answer's still the same. Practice. Find the information that you need and learn it and practice it. Every time I see one of these Bob Ross GIFs on Tumblr, I can't resist reblogging it because that's, I mean, he says it. He says talent is interest and practice over time, and he's right. If you're interested in something, if you're genuinely interested in it and you're willing to practice it, then people will eventually start telling you, "Oh wow, you're so talented because you put in the time." Every time I hear somebody say I can't draw, it's really hard for me not to get into an argument with that person, and I hear it all the time. I hear it at the gallery, I hear it from friends, and it's not that I want to argue with them. It's just that when people say that, you know that if you say, "Well, all you got to do is practice," that they'll just be like, whatever. And I mean, it's fine if you don't actually want to learn to draw. And I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people look at drawings and they go, "Wow, that's really nice. I really like good drawings." But I don't really care to learn how to do that. I don't want to sit around with a sketch pad drawing random crap all the time until I get really good. And I get that. That's fine. But if you do want to know how to draw, if you do want to learn it, then you need to get a sketchbook. And you need to draw a lot. And you need to draw things that you don't think you can draw. And you need to take the time, and you need to be patient and compassionate with yourself. And you need to put the time in. And that's true of anything, period. It doesn't matter what it is. If you want to know how to do it, then you got to practice doing that thing. Surgeons practice. They don't just go through med school and get farted out as perfect surgeons. They practice on cadavers until they get to a point where they can see someone do something and repeat it. And that point is not early on. It's much, much later. Sculptors practice. Writers practice. I think sometimes it's not obvious that writers have to practice, but they totally do. Every writer that ever lived wrote shit when they were kids. It was good for their age. It was good for being the first thing that they wrote, but it was crap, you know? And if you start writing at 20 or 30, you're going to write stuff that is not good for your age because you didn't start writing when you were 10. So you didn't write the crap then, you're writing the crap now. Same thing with drawing, sculpting, any other. You're just going to suck when you start, period. And that's really hard for adults, which I think is kind of funny, because adults are supposed to be the ones that know how life works and have coping skills. But one of those coping skills that a lot of adults seem to lack is the ability to let themselves suck while they're learning. I think a lot of people get to adulthood and they think they're supposed to have it all sorted out, and they feel pressure to look that way at all times. And it's embarrassing and painful to sit down with something that they don't have sorted out and do it badly. And for that, it's good to have privacy. But at the same time, it's good to know that no matter what you do, if it's new to you, you're going to suck at it. Period. There's always a perception of your peers that other people learn these things faster than you. I mean, not always. Some people are absolutely assured of their ability, and they don't go through that kind of insecurity. But those people are rare, and we kill them when we discover them. But among normal people, there's this perception that the guy sitting next to you, the girl sitting next to you, she's figuring all this stuff out way faster than you are. And in some cases, on some things, the person next to you will figure it out faster than you. In other cases, they've had better preparation, or it only looks like they get it better, or you're getting it and you don't realize it. And they're sitting next to you going, "Man, how does he know how to do this already?" Or how does she know how to do this already? But what's really happening is it's just there's so much bullshit your brain makes up about what you're perceiving, especially in social situations like Tumblr, like class, any situation where you're watching other people trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. Your brain will just come up with all this bullshit and try to sell you on this idea that it's not even worth trying. Look, this person knows how to do it. You don't know how to do it. Just quit, you know? Let them know how to do it, and you just go do something else. Go find something that you know how to do. We don't know how to do shit. Nobody knows how to do shit until they learn how to do it. Period. Even shitting. That's why you go through that whole period as a baby, sucking at it. But yeah, all that perception that the guy next to you, that the girl next to you is getting it faster than you. That's all that is. It's a perception, and you don't know what they already know. And there's a tendency of people to play up their own ignorance in order to make what they're doing, their own accomplishments, seem more impressive. For all you know, that girl had 5 years of piano before she took this introduction to piano class. But she's not going to mention that. She's just going to be like, oh, I don't understand any of this. Oh, look how awesome I am now. People do that. Not everybody, but it happens. I think I've acted like I just started modeling 2 years ago. Well, I didn't just start modeling 2 years ago. And if I've given anybody that impression, then you're free to slap the shit out of me. I started modding Skyrim 2 years ago, but I learned the basics of modeling I would say about 10 years ago. In Lightwave, I made a human body. It was terrible. It looks terrible. I found it the other day. It's horribly put together. I think I made a head or two. I made a whole bunch of like weird little snake guys, just for fun. Anyway, I made a bunch of stuff. None of it was production quality. None of it would I show to anybody, although I did at the time because I was very proud of it at the time. And that's one of the things that keeps you going, is being unable to see just how crappy your stuff is. I know that my stuff still sucks in a lot of ways, but I can't get out of bed in the morning if all I do is focus on how crappy my stuff looks. And nobody can. I have met people who seem to be negative on their shit all the time, and they move like molasses. They move really slowly because it's really hard to hate what you're doing and hate how you're doing it and still keep doing it. You have to some extent, you have to see what you're trying to do, and you have to admire that part of yourself more than what you're actually doing. You have to see the good parts of what you're doing, because there are good parts. Even the first day, you're going to do some good stuff, and that's what you need to focus on as a beginner, as a learner, not even as a beginner, as someone who is still learning. And guess what? You're always going to be learning. You're always going to get a year, 2 years, 10 years down the line and look back at what you did at that time and be like, I really didn't know what I was doing in this area or that area. Because you're never going to know exactly what you're doing until you can actually claim the title of master. And guess what? Those people are 40, 50, 60 years old, period. Even the young people on Tumblr who amaze others with their drawing skills, a master could sit down and look at what they're doing and go, well, you're doing a good job, but you have some weak areas. And that's just the way that's unavoidable. You can't be 21 and be a master of something unless it's some basic human bodily function. And even that, people aren't all that damn good at. Everything takes practice. And it takes years of practice to become a master. And so don't even make being a master your goal. Just make being happy with what you're doing right now your goal. And be happy with it. And don't let everything that you can't know, that you don't know, weigh on you. Because it's not worth it. It's just counterproductive. Well, that's it for me this week. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. I hope if you came to this wanting to get something out of it, you did. You can visit my Tumblr at calyps-mexus.tumblr.com. That's calyps-smexus.tumblr.com. That is a portmanteau of sexy, smart, and nexus. Please do not call me Calyps Mexus. It is not my name, just Calyps. Thank you, and goodbye.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Mike here, and it's that time of year again. It's upon us. It is the Steam Summer Sale. my wallet is already crying. Well, actually, it isn't, because I haven't bought anything. I guess it's more of my want to buy games is crying. But I haven't bought anything because, not that nothing that I want's on sale, it's because I haven't played the games I bought last year on the Steam summer sale. I don't know, haven't really been playing games as much. It's been on a decline for me, and I can't explain why exactly. I really don't know. It's not that I don't have the time. It's not that I just don't think about playing games. I putz around on the internet all day and just don't think about doing it. Let's see, what games do I have in my library from last year's summer sale that I have not played? Wow, that's a lot of games. Just looking at it here, like, not a summer sale, but 2 years ago, Kevin bought me Skyrim for Christmas. Haven't played it more than, let's hear, it says I've played 2 hours of Skyrim. See here, Grand Theft Auto. I got the 3-pack of Grand Theft Auto 4 that has the it and the 2 expansions. I played 17 hours of that. Just Cause 2, haven't even installed it. Saints Row the Third, haven't installed it. Transformers War for Cybertron, installed but not played. Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 2 complete pack, not even installed. So yeah, and Batman Arkham City, installed but haven't played it. And Driver wow, there's even games I forgot I bought. Driver San Francisco, not even installed. So I really don't know what to make of that. All these games just going to waste. If I had to hazard a guess at why I just don't get into games anymore, it's probably just because it's too much of a time commitment. That's about the only thing I can come up with. Well, anyway, other things this week, just found out today that coming up in August is the Gathering of the Juggalos. If you don't know what a Juggaloo is, well, you're lucky, but it is a follower of the Insane Clown Posse, which is a clown-themed rap group. And every year in August, at Cave In Rock, Illinois, they have the Gathering, which is a week-long, I would say Woodstock on acid, but Woodstock was already on acid. It's a bunch of people drugged out of their minds, crapping everywhere, listening to music and comedians, and used to be one of the big highlights was the helicopter rides they used to have, which I found hilarious. But yeah, I look forward to reading the stories of the Gathering every year, and hopefully this year won't disappoint with the crazy antics. Some notable things that have happened in the past were it's infamous in that several people have been not just booed off stage, but have had glass bottles thrown at them until they have left the stage. They're very vocal about the acts they do not like, but it's just really crazy to read about some of these stories. But also you hear about their underlying community, even though they seem like a bunch of drug-addled psychopaths, which they might be true. They also seem to be very tightly knit too, because one of their mantras is family. They consider themselves a family. And in some regards, I can kind of envy that in a way. I've always been kind of an outsider person, other than my few friends. I really don't network very much. I don't put myself out there and go looking for more people to meet. So other than my close friends, I really don't associate with anyone. I don't have a bunch of online friends or anything. So I can kind of envy, feeling a part of something that large. About the closest I've come is last year was my first year I went to Dragon Con, which I am planning on going again this year. But it just kind of blew me away that, in Dragon Con, for anyone that doesn't know, Paul's talked about it a little bit, but I don't think he really conveyed the scale of it. Dragon Con last year, I believe, was 50,000 attendees. It is spread across 4 or 5, I can't remember. There are several major host hotels which have, 5. It's 5 major main host hotels that have events in them and where you stay. And there's also satellite hotels, or overflow hotels as they call them. And it was crazy, but not crazy bad, not crazy like Gathering of the Juggalos. It was the defining moment of this for me was 3 of the main hotels where most of the events happen are all 1 block away from each other and all connected with sky bridges, so you never have to go outside to get to most of the main stuff. So there I am walking with some friends through the sky bridge, and there's just a lot of people. This thing's packed, and they're telling everyone to not stop, to take pictures, and everybody, like 80% not 80%, maybe more than 50% of the people though are in costume, every day. It's just really surreal, all these characters in really good costumes too. Most of them put a lot of effort into it. But there I am walking down a sky bridge, and one person just shouts, "So say we all," and then everybody just starts chanting it after him, and it kind of blew my mind, really, because I'd been to a little convention before years ago on the coast of Mississippi, but this was just amazing, really. And I think that last year I was too blown away to really take it all in. So hopefully this year I can maybe get into it a bit more. I still felt like an outsider, I guess, at the time. I didn't know, pretty much by the time I got comfortable with it, it was over. The first 2 days were just me absorbing this whole experience. So hopefully this year I can appreciate it more and maybe be more comfortable with it. And I'm not, even though I don't think I have social anxiety. Well, maybe I do a little bit have a social anxiety, but I'm not agoraphobic. I'm not afraid of crowds or anything. I tend to sublimate in the crowds, tend to, shrink into the background. Not that I don't like crowds. In fact, I kind of do like crowds, except for when I'm alone. The phrase "alone in a crowd," that's definitely me. I've never felt more alone than when I've been in a crowd with nobody I know near me, because there's all these people, and wow, I'm getting really personal here for all of a sudden, but definitely feel like I can't connect to people easily, and therefore I feel even more lonely when I'm around a bunch of people. But we'll see. I think last year also, I don't drink much, but last year I was drinking a lot, so I think that helped. Let's see, so I have any interesting stories from that Dragon Con? About the only real thing of interest was, at the time I've been watching a lot of YouTube Minecraft people. And one of the things that got me to go really was that one of the guys I watch on YouTube said he was going. That and an author I really like was going to be there as well. So those two things got me to finally say, fuck it, I'm going. I'm going to make it happen. And it's one of those things, it's as long as you're going with a group and, don't have to pay for a hotel by yourself, it's not that expensive. I think last year my total for going, including food and everything, was under $400. So that wasn't too bad. Hopefully I'll be able to do it. And that's kind of a bare bones, though. I mean, I literally I didn't starve. I mean, I ate well, ate at all the restaurants that everyone else did, but that's about the only thing I spent money on. Bought a little bit of like souvenir stuff. Didn't really spend a whole lot on stuff, though, just mostly food and other expenses. But anyway, I guess, we're pushing 11 minutes here, so I will talk to you guys next time. Next week, look forward to the regular SMAG group, and see y'all later.
Hello, SMAGcast. It's Paul. I'm back again. And this week, I want to tell you during our Solitaire, whatever the heck these things are called, about the worst Christmas I ever had. Oh, it's sad. No, many, many years ago, I lived with a friend of mine. We'll call him Scott, because that's what his name is. And he was out of town, and my parents were out of town, and my brothers were out of town, and yes, I have brothers. And I had to work. So I think I was like probably 25 at the time, and I was like, no, everybody's gone, and I gotta work. And I was working at the TV station at the time, so I was on a 2 to 11 shift. And I'm sitting in my room, like you do before work, I think I was like playing a video game or whatnot. I heard the dogs making noise outside, my roommate's dogs. And I walked outside, and I was like, well, okay, what the heck are you dogs doing? And one dog was on its lead runner thing, and the other dog comes loping around the corner, and I was like, holy crap, dog, you are drunk. What the heck is wrong with you? You're just stumbling all over the place. Things are not making sense. And then I looked up, and there's a police officer standing there with a big scowl on his face with a finger going, come here. And I was like, okay, well, this is not some sort of a normal occurrence. So I walk up to him, and I look over to the left, and on the street there's 3 cop cars and 4 more cops standing down at the end of the driveway. And he looks at me with his, I have to overcompensate for everything because I'm a horrible person. He's like, is this your dog? I was like, no, it's my roommate's dog. Where's your roommate? It's like, why are you talking like that? He's like, I'm a cop. I was like, okay. So I was like, this is not my dog. This is my roommate's dog, and he happens to be out of town. He's like, well, you gotta take the dog and come with us because it bit the chief's daughter. I was like, oh my god, okay, why do I have to do this? But at the time, I was so confused because this was like some sort of a new occurrence. It's like, okay, well, can I go back inside and change? It's like, yeah, you come back inside, change, come back outside. It's like, alright, so I went back inside and changed clothes. So I come back outside, and they're like, you gotta put the dog in your car. It's like, well, could I have some help with that? Because this is like a 130-pound dog, maybe, I don't know. The dog was very large, and I was not at the time. And they're like, well, no, we can't help you move the dog because it'll kill us. Really? The dog's half asleep. Because, as I was told, they got the vet out to shoot the dog with a tranquilizer dart from his tranquilizer gun. But no, they would not help me. So I take this big, wet, muddy dog, and I stick him in my car. I put my towel down because I'm a hitchhiker and you have to know where your towel is. And I had to follow them to some sort of a humane society or whatnot, which it was of course not open because it's Christmas, and who's open on Christmas? I'll tell you who's open on Christmas. The television station and a bunch of cops with nothing better to do. So they're looking for a key to put the dog inside the fence around the water tower, and they can't find it. And I'm like, well, dude, seriously? They're like, don't let the dog out of the car! Well, what's he gonna do? Fall asleep on you? But no. So then I had to follow them to the police station because they were gonna put the dog into a holding cell. This particular police station has a bunch of chain link fence areas where they hold property that I think they've confiscated or something, and all of this is outside because they don't care about other people's property. It's all about, like, I've got a big truck and it's got huge tires. I'm compensating for the thing in my pants is not very big. Yeah. And I may be exaggerating slightly here, but that's kind of the vibe they gave off. So these cops, I have to sit there and wait with the dog in my car, who is by this time completely asleep, and they open up the thing once they clean it out. They're like, you gotta put the dog in there. It's like, well, can I have some help because the dog is completely asleep? No, because it might wake up and kill us. Like, really? This dog that's asleep is going to kill you. My, the bravado that you men display here these days. They're like, oh, I'm like, really? Words? Those are useful. So I have to haul this like 130-pound dog by myself, and it's wet, and it weighs more than me, into this holding cell so that the cops can feel safe. And the dog never wakes up because it got hit by a tranquilizer dart, you know, like the kind of things that happens in Africa when you're trying to tag a rhino. But instead of Africa, I've got a bunch of small town cops who have absolutely nothing better to do and are very angry about having to work on Christmas Day, as am I. So I'm moving this dog, right? And they're all like, oh, it's a killer. I'm like, really? And the way that I was going to say bunnies are killers, but, I mean, that's Monty Python. That bunnies are killers in Monty Python. But in this case, maybe hedgehogs? I don't know. I mean, Sonic never killed anybody. Well, maybe Dr. Robotnik. Actually, honestly, he just kind of got rid of the thing that he was flying around in, the robot thing. But anyway, so I walk back over after putting the dog into the cage because it's going to kill people. And they were like interrogating me, and they're asking me a bunch of questions and whatnot, and, you know, how do you know your roommate? And I'm like, because he's my friend. Blah, blah, all this crap. And I finally looked at them, and I'm pretty well fed up at this point. I'm like, really? Are we done here? Because I got to go to work. And I think it was like probably 30 minutes or so. Like, oh, yeah, where do you work? I was like, well, I happen to work for a local television station. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you work for this television station. Well, we really like that television station. And one of your anchors came out the other day and had an interview with, Meat Fist over here, who happens to be the sergeant. But it was like suddenly very nice to me. And I'm like, really, guys? You're going to go all ham fist on me for, I think it was like 2.5 hours that I was dealing with you guys being complete and utter jerkholes. And the moment that I mentioned that I work with the media, you're okay with me. You're not winning any points with me there. So they let me go, and my roommate comes back from being out of town on vacation, has to spend, I don't remember how much money it was to get his dog out of hock. I mean, this wasn't the last time that this happened, but it was the only time that ever happened with me on Christmas, and these cops were complete and utter dicks. And it was not the only time that I had to deal with them, because I work in emergency management, and during a tornado, I went through a certain area where there was damage from the tornado, from said tornado, to take pictures, because that's one of the things that I do. And one of these cops stops me. He's like, you can't come in here. This is for emergency people only. I was like, yeah, I'm emergency personnel. It says so in the title, on the logo, on the side of the vehicle I'm driving in. Dude was a complete dick. And I will not say that all cops are, especially in small towns where they have absolutely nothing better to do than be dicks to the citizens. So that's my story for this week. It's a bit of a rant. I know it makes up for the Solitaire 2 weeks ago where I just talked about voter registration crap and it was not very funny. I hope this one is funny because that's kind of the thing that I do. So yeah, that's probably the end of the SMAGcast. We're going to throw it over to Kevin so that he can close this thing out and run the tag music. So anyway, that was my last Christmas alone. I hope you guys enjoyed that story.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode of the SMAGcast. I hope you've enjoyed listening to everyone's opinions on various and sundry subjects. And we will see you guys next week for Roundtable, so stay safe and we'll see you then. Stay smaggy. This has been the SMAGcast. If you have any thoughts or questions, you can email us at thesmagcast@gmail.com. Our theme music is Out of School by Jazar from the album Traveler's Guide, which is available from freemusicarchive.org and used under Creative Commons license.